Alassane Ouattara Stadium, commonly known as the Olympic Stadium of Ibimpe and formerly as the National Stadium of the Ivory Coast, is a multi-purpose stadium in Ibimpe and Enyima, in northern Abidjan. It opened in 2022. The stadium hosts major football matches including home matches of the Ivory Coast national football team. Alassane Ouattara Stadium is owned by the government of Ivory Coast. With 60,000 seats, it is the largest stadium in Ivory Coast and one of the most modern stadiums in Africa. 3. Designed by the Beijing Institute Architectural Design, the new National Stadium of Ivory Coast was strategically situated away from Abidjan, positioned between the communes of Ibimpe and Enyima. In a direct distance, it stands approximately 20 kilometers north of central Abidjan. The decision to relocate the country's sporting hub beyond the city limits was a deliberate one. Ultimately, it is envisioned to be an integral part of a sprawling 287-hectare sports city, set to become one of the largest sports and leisure districts in Africa to host multiple sports like football, rugby and athletics. As for the stadium itself, the initial construction phase covered only its immediate surroundings, encompassing 4 plazas and providing 1,400 parking spaces. The stadium is situated on a rectangular plot spanning 20 hectares. Due to variations in land elevation, the project necessitated extensive excavation, involving the removal of approximately 500,000 tons of soil. This early stage presented considerable challenges, exacerbated by heavy rainfall that led to instances of mud flooding. The stadium was primarily designed and its construction was initiated with the intention of hosting the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations, under the leadership of Prime Minister Daniel Kablan-Duncan, but on November 30, 2018, CAF stripped Cameroon of hosting the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations because of delays in the construction of stadiums and other necessary infrastructure. 4. It was relocated to Egypt. 5. CAF president at the time, Ahmad, said that Cameroon had agreed to host the 2021 tournament instead. 6. Consequently, Ivory Coast, original hosts of 2021, will host the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. On January 30, 2019, the CAF president confirmed the timetable shift, after a meeting with Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara, in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. 7. The African Cup will be the first major competition that the country will host since the 1984 African Cup of Nations. History. Construction. The ground was broken for the stadium on December 22, 2016 by Prime Minister Daniel Kablan-Duncan, with the presence of a China embassy representative. 8. 9. In keeping with the common practice in Chinese-African partnerships, the lion's share of the work on the stadium was carried out by Chinese companies, with an array of Chinese brands involved in the project. The design documentation for the stadium was prepared by the Beijing Institute of Architectural Design, BIAD, while the construction itself was executed by the Beijing Construction Engineering Group, BCEG. From the early stages of conceptual design, the stadium earned its nickname, the Arc de Triomphe. This moniker was bestowed due to the presence of 96 columns encircling the entire structure, creating a dynamic arcade adorned with stained glass in the national colors. These columns serve both as a striking facade and as support for the roof. At its peak, the stadium reaches a height of 51.4 meters, with approximate dimensions of 290 meters in length and 270 meters in width. The stadium boasts an impressive blueprint covering over 61,250 square meters and offers 5 floors of facilities, particularly concentrated within the main stand. The seating bowl is divided into 3 tiers, each providing 24 rows, 13 rows, and up to 28 rows from bottom to top, respectively. Only the 3rd tier is not a continuous ring, featuring openings in all corners. Despite the auditorium being topped by 32 spacious roof girders, the roof fully covers only the 3rd tier and part of the 2nd tier. Official construction activities commenced on December 22, 2016, with an initial delivery deadline set for October 2019, totaling 34 months for completion. At its peak, the construction site saw around 1,500 individuals working, with approximately 400 of them being Chinese personnel. However, the project experienced significant delays, leading to the stadium's completion only in late spring of 2020. Several factors contributed to the delay, including adverse weather conditions, a considerable number of malaria cases among the Chinese workforce, and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic late in the project timeline. Consequently, the opening date was postponed to October 2020. Due to the international collaboration involved in the stadium's construction, the Ivorian government was responsible for covering only a portion of the project's cost, with the remaining funds provided by China. The reported total cost of the stadium was XOF 143 billion, approximately $257 million at the time of opening, with China contributing $63 billion. With a seating capacity of just over 60,000, the stadium is nearly twice the size of Ivory Coast's previous national stadium, Félix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium. Following its inauguration, it became one of the largest stadiums in West Africa. In November 2019, the stadium was near its completion. It was expected to be delivered to the government of Ivory Coast in February 2020. However, there was a delay due to the weather and health issues, including the COVID-19 pandemic. Inauguration. The stadium was inaugurated on October 3, 2020 and was named after President Alassane Ouattara. Many officials and the Chinese ambassador in Ivory Coast were also present at an amazing party in the stadium which contained a great show of dance and music. A friendly match was also played after the show between the two most popular clubs in Ivory Coast and Africa, ASEC Mimosas and Africa Sports d'Abidjan. ASEC Mimosas won the match